So obviously, I wasn't really around at all. I wasn't even a glint in the milkman's eye, as you call
Yeah.
it. At the time when Hawaii was like sort of rocking and rolling a bit more. So would you take me back? To the Hawaii Territory, and what was the Hawaii Territory? What was like a typical loop? How many days did you work? What were the payoffs like? Who were the regular stars? Who were the stars you might get from overseas to bump up the house?
Hawaii was the greatest territory in the world at the time. I think you'd work maybe 2 or 3 days a week. You have a Wednesday show at whatever the big venue, either the Blaisdell or later Block Arena, and then once a month or 6 weeks you go to the Blaisdell Center for the big blow off show, and then you'd have a military base, either one of the military bases on the weekend or Alder Island to Kauai or Maui or the Big Island of Hawaii. So that's that was like a weekly. So you did 3 days, and then well the other guys are more established. They picked up they would pick up shots in San Francisco or L.A. across, but I was nobody, so it was fine for me. I was making about 250, $300 would have been a good week, but we had a deal at a place, Waikiki Ambassador Hotel. It was 158 dollars a month, right on Waikiki Beach. And I had a little van that I'd had before I got into wrestling, and but I got everywhere on my bicycle basically. So it was just, I guess before Beach Bum was established, that's what I was Beach Bum. But they had some of the greatest talent in the world. There was King Courtesy Alkea. I think who wrestled extensively in Europe, and then I think he toured with Ricky Starr, I believe is the ballerina, the guy that had the bell. Curtis is about 350, 380, and Ricky Starr was like 200 pound. Curtis knew how to do business. And then there was Johnny Baran, who was like the one of the all time favorites here. Ripper Collins, guys you'd probably Jim Haiti, Nick Bockwinkel. Uh, what they had here in Hawaii is they would run back in those days. The travel wasn't as extensive, so Japan and Australia would run not simultaneously, but have run their 6 week tours. So when the guys were coming back from Japan and they paid cash out there and have a bunch of money, they stop here in Hawaii. Or coming back from Australia, stop here in Hawaii, get booked, write it off as a business trip, wrestle. So all the greatest talent in the world was coming through. San Martino and Carpentier and Rocca, and Blassie. Everybody was coming. Well, Blassie was in California, but all the greatest talent was coming through. East Coast, Middle America, European. Everybody's coming through here for a stop, coming back from either Japan or Australia. So they had a big selection of great international stars to work with your local guys here. So it was just like a melting pot as well as far as nationalities as well, as far as wrestlers as well.
Do you remember the first like real legend, real big name that you got in the ring with in Hawaii?
Oh, Mad Dog Vachon, Maurice Vachon, he was a character. But I was in Vancouver. I wrestled Kiniski on TV. He just murdered me on TV. And Bob Brown, a couple other guys. I was around with Mark Lewin and King Curtis. In fact, in Hawaii, my first match was with, and we went to school, same schools, different times, but we went to school together. And he was an established, had been an established heel for a long time. And there's a battle royal, but how they throw matches on before the battle royal. So they booked me with Curtis before, and I was green as the grass. I was just green. And went out there. He made me look like $1 million. I got managed to get my hand raised. And Francis and Callie Hill came to me and said, "What are you doing back in California?" I said, "Nothing. You want to stay here for a while?" And then I said, "Yeah, sure, of course." Staying home in Hawaii, and then I stayed here, surf, wrestle. It was paradise.
Who was the Hawaii Territory affiliated with anyone else who would send stars over, not just people who were going to or from Japan?
Originally Portland. Originally, Ed Francis borrowed the money to buy the territory from Al Karasik, an old time wrestler who started the wrestling off here in maybe even pre-50s, but I know that he had through the 1950s. So Ed borrowed the money from Don Owens. So Don Owens was a partner here in Hawaii for a long time, and Don Owens, and then Roy Shires in the Northern California territory. They went to war here. They wanted to run their cards, but found out it's just too expensive to fly so many people over, and to the building and all the bite the building took, and all the expenses that they had to kind of come together with the Hawaii promotion eventually.
How was Sorry,
go ahead. That's all right.
Oh, I was just going to ask how Ed Francis was. Ed Francis was as a boss.
Yeah. Oh, he was great. They had great ideas. It was. It's like actually more complete than the WWE's right now. Johnny Barone was coming out of caskets, and I mean they had all kinds of and you're talking the 70s, the late 60s into the 70s. Now it's skits and off-color personalities and off all kinds of stuff going on that the regular wrestling world didn't. I'd say Ed Francis, Dory Funk Sr. from Amarillo, the Funk brothers, and Eddie Graham out of Florida. And they were the most innovative, I think, of all the promoters, basically because they had small territories and they had good crews. And then as everybody kind of, Ed's forte was the TVs and the strength where Eddie and Dory Sr. Created fantastic wrestlers, workers in the ring and on the mic as well.
Was it like like the Memphis territory? It was like in that small area. It was like the most watched television show by far.
Sure. They had Friday evenings. I think after the news, after the evening late night news. I think from hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, from like 10:30 to 12 or so, and that was popular. And then they came back on Saturday afternoon. They had a studio show, which was an hour and a half, and had basically about 15 to 20 minutes wrestling and about 50 minutes just promos, because they had the greatest talkers here that with Ripper Collins and Johnny Moran and Curtis. They had the greatest promo guys in the business at one time, in a collection at one time, before the Pipers and the Macho Mans and those kind of guys. It was just in fact, Lanny Poffo came on the podcast that I do, Making Waves, on Thursdays at 11 p.m. Hawaiian time, 5 p.m. Eastern. But Lanny came on, and when he was over here with his brother Macho Man and Angelo as their dad, and when Macho Man and Randy was developing a persona, a missing link, Pompero Firpo, of course, the voice and the voice in there, and Curtis with the continuity and the brilliance of the semblance of words and phrases, the attractiveness of putting a story together. So that's where he took his too. That's what Lanny told me, that Randy had done his studying and patterned his interviews off of those two guys, which I'm sure a lot of us living here, I did. I'm sure I did, whether consciously or subconsciously or not. That they were all that good.
The territory was really doing well at that time. Why did it sort of fall apart so quickly? I know you weren't there at the time, but I mean, what did you understand to be?
Lost the main building. Lost everything. It was old, cigar-stained, smoky wrestling. They call it Civic Auditorium. It was right in downtown Honolulu. They'd have roller derby there in the summers, but year long, every Wednesday, without a fail, 8 p.m. they'd have professional wrestling, and all the great stars from all over the world. So that they had that, and then they sold that. As progress came along, buildings started moving in, and parking and everything else became less and less. And they finally tore the building down, put a bunch of banks and business buildings there. So they lost that building, which was really the heart of 50th State Wrestling at the time. They went to Block Arena with a military base, but that's always a house. Actually, as distance wise, aesthetically, it was actually nicer place. But people would have to go on a military base, and it's just kind of a hassle that people weren't used to. The TV lost, probably the talent level went down as well, but the TV lost its zing, without Ed. Ed was Ed was a tremendous promoter, good mind, good organizing. He one night he couldn't give himself a black eye, Ripper Collins couldn't give him a black eye. Hit him and hit him and hit him. So Ed had to crawl under the ring and give himself. It was his town. He was the promoter, so he had to give himself his own black eye. That's he and Ripper had a running feud for several years, going on back and forth, where they, if business got slow or something happened, and he and Ripper, they'd break out the old Ripper Ed Francis feud again, that would go. So, yeah, he told the story. He had to go, and he's trying blacking his own eye, so because Ripper couldn't get it done.
That is dedication. That just doesn't exist anymore, is it?
That's your territory.